What's up guys, today we're going to be going over all three of the new exotic glaives that you can now get because the raid is out, and in this video we'll be going over how to get them, what all three of them do, and why they kind of are extremely underwhelming and kind of suck. So the way to get these three exotic glaives is from doing all the quests on the evidence board in the Enclave, and once you do that you can pick up one for free. Then to get the other two, they drop the pattern from the Wellspring activity. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know which one to pick and which ones you can kind of wait on to randomly drop from the Wellspring. So let's go ahead and start looking at the first one and how it works. Looking at the Warlock one, the intrinsic trait is the same as most of the glaives in the game. The only important part right here is generate energy on dealing range damage. And that is because we need full energy to use the exotic perks. And the Warlock one is once you're full energy, hold reload to consume the full energy, converting your next shot into a restorative turret. So we first look at how this works. Charging a glaive requires hitting 6 of the range attacks, and that'll be the same for all three of the exotics. So to get the full charge to even do the exotic perk, you need to hit 6 of the shots, which depending on how much the target is moving, you might end up missing a few along the way. And once you have the full energy charge, you can go ahead and hold reload to convert your next shot, which will start draining the energy, and you have to shoot before that runs out, or if you swap off, it will stop the drain, but you will also lose the charged shot and have to recharge the weapon. And once you have it fully charged and you convert it and shoot it, it will obviously drain all the remaining energy and produce the exotic perk. So if you want to use the perks, it more or less just makes it so you can never block with the glaive. So my first major complaint for all three is just how unnecessarily hard it is to even use the exotic perk. Being required to hit 6 of the ranged attacks is such a high price to even do the exotic perk of a weapon. For example, with the Warlock one, it only holds 24 ammo, the Titan one will be 20, and the Hunter one 27. So with the Warlock glaive, if you don't even miss a shot, you can only use the exotic perk 3 times over the entire reserves of your ammo because it requires 6 to charge it and 1 when you shoot it. So the full combo takes 7 shots, and there's only 24 in the thing. All three of the exotics are also different frames, which means they do different damage. The Warlock one does the most damage, only doing slightly more than the normal glaive. So the only part of these glaives that keep them from being just a normal legendary glaive with no perks is the exotic one, and you're extremely limited on how often and how many times you can even do it. So the first one I want to show off is the Hunter one, and what this one will do is once you're fully charged and consume the charge, your next shot will do a wave arc frame on the ground, almost like a wave frame GL, and it'll track to the first enemy, then unleash a chain lightning on impact. So we look at how that works. Just like the Warlock glaive, it's going to require 6 ranged attacks to fully charge it. And once we do that on a single target, as you'll see, it does absolutely nothing. It does do more damage than the light attack, but only hitting 23,000. So obviously the point of this is ad clear. So looking at that, if I do it on a decent group of ads, honestly it felt like just a wave frame and nothing more. And I did this on all kinds of different enemies, and honestly I just see no reason to ever use this over just a legendary wave frame GL, or for example Reservoir Burst Fusion, the Dead Messenger, or one of the many really good ad clear exotics in the game, for example Sunshot, Risk Runner, Trinity Goal. I mean, there are so many different weapons in this game that can achieve the same level of ad clear, if not even better, and have way higher uptime on it than this glaive, which you can only do 4 times over your entire reserves of your ammo, and you have to land 6 shots to even do it in the first place. Then moving on to the Titan one, same concept as the Hunter, but now when you have the full charge, it will produce a protective shield on impact. As you see, this frame does less damage than the normal glaive, and once we hit 6 shots and get the full charge, we can consume it, and our next shot will create like a mini bubble, but with no buffs, debuffs at all. As you see, all it does is protect you while inside, and there's no overshield, nothing like that. Doesn't give you health regen, weapons delight, or anything that you might have thought it would do. The one good part is it lasts for quite a good amount of time. As you see, still going. It's gonna be roughly 20 seconds on the dot. And one thing I noticed while playing around with this is it does not seem to get broken like the new Word of Dawn and Well of Radiance. It does not matter how many enemies are shooting at it, it will last for that full 20 seconds, which is one of the good parts of this. So I think what they were going for with this one in particular is you get it fully charged, you put down the protective shield, and then you kind of bait enemies into the middle of it and use the melee attack. But as you see, once enemies are inside the bubble, it's doing nothing for you. All it's doing is protecting you from the outside enemies, which is why I think the point of it is to kind of like bait enemies into the middle, because outside of that, the only thing I can see it being useful for is like a panic button. But when it takes 6 shots to charge it and multiple seconds to even convert your next shot, that's not really a panic button anymore, right? And given that this thing only holds 20 ammo, that means you can only do it twice over your entire reserves. So now back to the Warlock 1. Now when we convert the shot, it'll put down a healing turret, and think the Boots of the Assembler on Healing Rift, that is exactly what this thing is. So the effect itself is extremely strong. It gives you full health the second it hits you, and the range on this thing is pretty good. And as you'll see, it will last for 15 seconds. So honestly, I think this one is pretty strong in terms of what it does, and it will allow you to play super aggressively and constantly get that full health back, which means you can go melee with the Glaive. But for online content, I think you can do the same thing with just Devour or multiple other things in the game. And for harder content, where I think this would really shine, I don't think you necessarily even want a Glaive on in the first place, and just having one player with Boots of the Assembler, which will do the exact same thing. You could be using Middle Tree Well of Radiance with Benevolent Dawn and have 100% uptime on your Healing Rift, and constantly have this up, compared to the Glaive where you have to hit 6 shots first, and the weapon only holds 24. Which means even if you don't miss, you can only do it 3 times, then you're out of ammo, compared to just spamming Boots of Assembler Healing Rift. You can have that same effect forever. While I think this one could be pretty useful in harder content, I think there's way better ways to do the same thing. So what could they even do to make these things more useful? Well, one, I think you should be able to use the exotic part of the Glaives more often, because outside of that, it's just a normal Glaive with no perks on it at all. So the whole charging system just needs to be revamped, in my opinion, either making ranged attacks give you more of the charge, or they could try making melee hits count towards charging the weapon also, but obviously make it a less percent than the ranged attack, or overall make it not require a full charge, and maybe depending on how much of the charge you have is how long the effect is, and that would work really well on the Titan and Warlock one. I'm not quite sure what you do for the Hunter one. Maybe make it chain less depending on how much energy you have. I'm not sure how realistic that is to pull off from a coding stance, but overall I think you just need to be able to use the exotic part more often. Another thing that could definitely help is just making Glaives better in general. Outside of suppressing Glaive, they don't feel that useful overall. So right now using one of these exotics just feel completely useless, because one, the base weapon itself isn't that great. Then you have such little uptime on the exotic part that just feels completely underwhelming and pretty much not worth your time at all. And yeah, I think that is pretty much all I gotta say about all 3 of them. Overall, I'm extremely underwhelmed. And from what I've seen, I think most people are, and I don't think that's a hot take at all. So let me know what you think about these 3 exotics. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.